It's a tiny little town, and I went down there for a section softball doubleheader, and this was a beautiful day down there. It was a little chilly and windy at first, and then the clouds kind of broke. The sun came out. Turned out great. And they've got two side-by-side softball fields in this little town next to the school there. So this was Class 2A, Section 1, St. Charles versus Lake City, Winona Cotter versus Chatfield. And Cotter ended up coming out on top, winning that subsection. And now Cotter's going to advance to in the winners bracket. They're going to play Rochester Lourdes in Austin on Tuesday here. And Chatfield and Zumbrota have advanced in the losers bracket, and they'll decide that section championship Thursday back in Austin as we wind down these section tournaments, getting closer to state. And really a fun atmosphere. Just, when the sun's shining and kids are out playing ball, it's just great. And big crowds, not a lot of bleachers there, but a lot of lawn chairs and blankets and little kids running around. Good concession stand. I had a couple of fine hot dogs there. These were not grocery store hot dogs. There must be a meat market somewhere in the vicinity because it was pretty good. And I knew that Winona Cotter, their coach, Pat Boland, he's a big-time softball coach. He's a St. Paul guy who's been down there in Winona forever. And he ranks second in the state all-time in softball coaching wins with 742. I think that's the updated number.
That's a lot.
742 wins. So I don't know how many, I don't know his total number of games, but you're talking, I don't know if it's 1,300. That's a lot. And the guy at the top of the list retired just a couple years ago, Bob Mertz down at New Ulm Cathedral. He retired with 802 on the victory side of that. So some big numbers. Softball coaches are great people. They're always interesting and they have a good time, and they don't take themselves too seriously. One thing that really struck me, and I tweeted a picture of this, a guy named Craig Manahan from KFIL radio in Princeton was broadcasting from down there. There's no press box. Like I said, there's just a couple of little sets of metal bleachers, and there's apparently not much electricity. So Craig actually set up a folding table down the right field line in a little gap in the fence outside the foul pole, way down the right field line, and he could see everything from there, and he could kind of see both fields. He was doing the Cotter game there, and he just, it seemed like an interesting spot, and I think maybe because it was close to the electricity, the concession stand was nearby. There was an electrical outlet there, and I tweeted this picture from behind where Craig was broadcasting, showing the field, in front of him, and what I said on the tweet was, small town radio can be spectacularly non-cushy. And I got a lot of reaction from other current and former small town play-by-play people who said, oh yeah, I've worked at spots like that a lot. So it was really great. And the people that are listening at home really appreciate that coverage. And Craig, I'm sure, does a great job. I don't know Craig at all, but it was just something that strikes you, when you think of college and professional sports and cushy press boxes and great views. It's a little different when you're sitting down the right field line at a folding table, calling the game and trying to keep up and make sure the wind doesn't blow your notes all over the place and you don't get rained on and your equipment doesn't get wet. But yeah, pretty cool stuff down in Elgin.
That's awesome stuff. Okay, 80 umpires, 900 games, 40 schools.
Yeah, we talk about officiating a lot and weather and how games can get moved around. So our friend Emmett Keenan, the AD up at St. Cloud Cathedral, sent me this email that he had sent to softball and baseball officials in the St. Cloud area. He's the assigner for the St. Cloud Officials Association. So he's the guy who basically decides who's going to work what games and when the schedules get all messed up like they have this spring. He kind of put it in numbers here. He wrote a thank you email to all the officials and all the athletic directors who make sure these games can be played. And I posted it on the High School League Facebook page, MSHSL on Facebook. It's on John's Journal right now on mshsl.org. And basically, they got more than 99% of their games played during the regular season. And he said by the time the section playoffs end, the St. Cloud Officials Association will have supplied umpires for more than 900 softball and baseball games among 40 schools, more than 600 varsity games, more than 300 games on lower levels. And to do that, 80 umpires filled more than 1,600 slots in less than 8 weeks' time. And he wrote all those numbers are record highs since he's been assigning for the Officials Association. So, I mean, that's tremendous. To see that in raw numbers, how many umpires, how many games, in such a short length of time. And I don't know what the percentage was of how many games had to be moved and changed because of weather, but it was a lot this spring. So, that again, thanks to all our officials. We appreciate what you do. And one more interesting officials note, we talk about young officials a lot. A guy named Matthew Ripley on Twitter, he's at Ripley Lax Ref, he's a lacrosse official, tweeted to me about a game between Eden Prairie and Blake. He said it was fantastic, not only because of the play by the athletes, but because of the fantastic crew that he worked with. The average age was 25, and everyone was 30 or under of the three officials at this lacrosse game. That's a good sign for the future of officiating to have an entire crew where everybody's younger than 30, and the average age is 25. Those are some young officials. Those officials are enthusiastic and in shape. Two things I've never been accused of. So good for them.
Well, I played lacrosse, and I end up reffing a lot of lacrosse. Just these are tournaments, and people need you to do something. That's some exercise. A lot of sprinting.
Yeah.
Yes, one state tournament this week.
Yeah, we've got one state tournament this week before we really get rolling in the spring here. It's adapted softball, Friday and Saturday at Chanhassen High School. There's two divisions here, the CI, which stands for cognitively impaired, and the PI, physically impaired. Really fun. This has been at Coon Rapids for a long time here, for several years. We've got a new site, Chanhassen. This will start Friday afternoon. The kids will play Friday evening and then all day Saturday with championship games Saturday afternoon. And I'm going to be there before the thing starts on Friday. Generally, I'm not there at that point. But as we've talked about before, the Moorhead 8th grade orchestra is going to play the national anthem. And not pep band, pep orchestra tunes from the bleachers after that before they head back. So that's going to be Friday afternoon to get things kicked off. We'll have the Moorhead Orchestra there, and then I'll be back Saturday for the championship games, and it'll just be a ball. It's a great. These adapted events are so great, and kudos to Chanhassen for hosting here. And then next week is when we really get rolling with boys tennis, softball, and track. And then the week after that, it's state tournaments in golf, lacrosse, and baseball. And we will put a big ribbon on the spring and the entire school year with baseball state championship games at Target Field. That will be June 20th. And if for some reason the weather gets in the way, I think we've got the next day there too. So we're getting down to the end here, the last 2-3 weeks of the spring season.
I would make a weather joke here, but I think they've all been used up, so we'll just move on. Do you have a band update for us?
This is a cool band update. So I got a tweet from the Minneota High School Athletic Activities Twitter account showing some video of the Minneota Pep Band playing at a softball game in their subsection tournament down there. And they wrote, "I've never seen a pep band at a softball game. MSHSL, John, have you?" And you know what? I have. It's rare. I think the only time I've seen it was maybe at the state softball tournament. One school a few years ago had the pep band come in and play a little bit. But that's really neat. That really says something about Minneota. We know about Minneota in a lot of sports, how good they are. They bring teams to the state tournament all the time. And to have the band kids come out and play at a softball game, way to go, Minneota Vikings. That's really cool.
Good stuff. What is the Henning story?
Okay, Henning. We know about the Henning basketball team. State champions in 1A boys this year. And Jacob Quam, the young man who was killed in a car accident. Mm-hmm. Couple years ago, I've written extensively about Henning. I've been up there. This is pretty neat. When you think you've seen every great thing to come out of Henning, it's a tragic situation, but the way these guys kept Jacob as a team member, for the 2 seasons after he died, and they had graduation up there this weekend, and Jacob was with them. We know that, but he also was an organ donor when he was 16 when he died in this car accident 2 springs ago. So Mark Oscarson up there, he's a teacher and an assistant coach on the boys basketball team, tweeted a picture of a plaque from Tri-County Health that is hanging in his classroom. And it states that Jacob, because he was an organ donor, 16 people have been helped by organs, and from Jacob, and that's pretty good. That young man was an organ donor, and although he's gone, 16 people have had their lives improved because he was an organ donor. So I just can't. I just this whole Henning story just never ends. The greatness, the inspiration, the tragedy. It's a mixture of a lot of emotions for people. And I bet graduation was a little extra emotional too, knowing that Jacob was a part of this class that just graduated. And then the timing of this, I think this was maybe the day before graduation, I saw this tweet that 16 people have had their lives improved because Jacob Quam was an organ donor. That's pretty spectacular.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you for continuing to follow that story. One more sponsor note. We have a deal with Bite Squad, bitesquad.com. Download the Bite Squad app. Use the promo code TALKNORTH. Get your first delivery fee waived. But just keep using it after that. Breakfast, lunch at your office, dinner at home, no dishes, no waiting, no reservations, no traffic, no parking. They make life very easy, and they've been great to our network, bitesquad.com, or download the Bite Squad app. Upload your information, and they make things very easy. Any final thoughts or notes you want to add, John?
I could add one more softball note here, Jim, that I skipped over. Down at Mankato East softball coach Joe Madsen. Congrats to Joe. He got his 500th career win over the weekend here. That's pretty awesome. That's a lot of softball, like we talked about the other softball coaches here. That's pretty cool to have 500 wins. Oh, and I did find one Twitter question here from a few days ago. This is a good one. Allianz Field, where the Loons play, United Soccer.
Beautiful place.
It's all the rage, right? And Dylan Gronland on Twitter wondered if we're going to play high school state tournaments at Allianz, and he says it would be cool to have it there. I agree, it would be, but the thing is, the weather when we have the state soccer tournament. This is late October, early November, and they've been played indoors at the Metrodome and now US Bank Stadium, and that's the plan, to stay indoors. Where the as great as the new soccer stadium in St. Paul is, the plan is to stay indoors and not have to worry about the weather, and plus beating up the grass on that field. That's natural grass. And having just soccer games rolling through there for several games a day would, I think, put a beating on that grass. So as great as that sounds, that's not in the works at this point.
Right, and I covered one Loons game so far this year, and the sod was coming up in huge chunks. The sod just hasn't taken solid root yet, so it's giving them trouble playing one game there a week. They probably can't afford to have it beat up any more than that. But maybe sometime in the future after the stadium takes hold a little bit better.
Yeah. And I could certainly see regular season games there. I think that's a definite possibility. If schools want to connect with the team and work that out, I think that'd be awesome. I'd love to see high school soccer in there.
So remember, mshsl.org, John Millea, John's Journal. Check out TalkNorth.com for all of our other shows. We do pretty much everything in town. And thanks to everyone who listens. Thanks to Pizza Barn, Princeton.com, and BiteSquad.com. And we'll be back talking next week.